Hi students, we are already at week 8. This is officially the halfway point. This week's chapter is on intake and engagement. So we've discussed some of the basic helping skills, then we've talked about some advanced skills. Chapter 7 was over pitfalls to avoid, if you can, at all possible. Chapter 8 talks about this initial stage of the intake and engagement phase. While we're meeting with our client for the intake, we're also engaging the client in the initial helping relationship. First impressions are lasting impressions, and so your nonverbals, the communication you have, is going to set the stage for whether or not the client becomes engaged and stays with you or not. There are many reasons why a client may or may not seek the help of a social worker. Regardless of their reason or motivation, in order for the helping process to be effective, it's got to be reciprocal in nature. So it's not just a one-way street. You're not just asking questions to get information. You're developing rapport with the client. So it's spelled R-A-P-P-O-R-T. It's spelled like report, but it's rapport. So you're developing rapport, and that is critical as the first stage of this intake process. Empathy is the social worker's ability to put him or herself in your client's shoes, and rapport is totally dependent upon mutual trust, respect, and the ability to start where the client is. We use this phrase all the time, starting where the client is. This lets the client know that you're not expecting them to already be further down the helping process. It's truly starting where the client is. No judgment, no qualifications. In terms of understanding how to implement the skills, you use those skills that we talked about in chapters 5 and 6, and you use some preparation for that first visit. So whether or not it is in your office or in the client's home, you want to plan for these things. It's important to engage in some safety precautions and think about those things as well. And then also judge the level of engagement of the client with subsequent meetings. Think about times where you may have met with a person in authority, and they will ask you things like, so we'll plan on meeting next week, are you okay with everything we've said? And we all typically go, okay. It's kind of like me as an instructor. If I ask you, are you doing okay? Do you understand? Chances are you're going, yeah, and you may or may not be. So this is where it's important to be able to utilize your tuning in skills, assessing where the client is, truly knowing whether or not the client is ready to engage in that helping process with you. This is what's important for the intake process. There's some exercises this week in the workbook, which is at the very end of your e-text, and there's some intake forms. So one of your activities this week is going to be engage in a pseudo intake with someone that you have that opportunity to experience asking questions and beginning that engagement process. So good luck this week. I'm sorry this is a late start. This has been a really rough 10 days. I know that several of y'all have been sharing in that rough time. So we're all in this together. I'm working on grading papers. Let's just all have grace with one another. Have a great rest of your week. Bye.